Yeah, there we go. So, hello and welcome everyone to Meshery Development Meeting. Today is October 12th. So, we have a tradition to first start with welcoming of newcomers. So, if you are a newcomer joining this call for the first time, feel free to unmute yourself and give a brief introduction.
Hi guys, my name is Eko Franklin, and this is my first time on the call. So yeah, I think I joined Meshery about three weeks ago, and I actually did my first contribution yesterday. It's still an open PR, it's not yet closed, so still working on it. So yeah, that's it. Hope everyone can hear me.
Yep. Thanks,
Okay,
Franklin.
great. Yep. All right, guys.
So next up, did we miss anyone? Abdullah. So would like to give a brief introduction.
Hi everyone, my name is Abdullah Rafi. I'm a third year student at NITK Karnataka in India. And yeah, I've joined Meshery about, I think it's been 2 weeks now since I've joined the Slack channel. I made my first PR to Learify's website. And since then I've been studying about service meshes to contribute to Meshery, hopefully.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Abdullah. So yeah, Amit, is this your first time joining this call or you have been there?
Hello everyone. No, this is not my first time joining. I have already joined meeting 2 times earlier. I've been exploring this Meshery from last 1 week, and I could not able to run Meshery project. I've been working on that. Hopefully today I can.
Sure. Thank you, Amit. So yeah, if I miss anyone, feel free to unmute yourself and say hi. So before we start, so I am sharing the meeting minutes in chat. Make sure you write down your names in attendees list. So with that, let's start with our first meeting agenda, which is by Nithish. So is Nithish with us today?
No, I don't see him.
Okay, so yeah, no issue. We'll circle back to him later on. So next up we have is Pranav on Meshery database update discussion. So Pranav would like to take over.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen.
Sure.
So my agenda item is about a recent issue which was discovered in which new components were not being saved into the Meshery database, and we were seeing these errors. This reason for, let me tell you first what's happening. Actually, Meshery whenever Meshery discovers Kubernetes cluster, it saves the components in your cluster into the local database, and then it shows them onto your dashboards based on what you have in your cluster. So recently I updated the Meshery database schema in which I added few new constraints so that we don't duplicate the data which we store, just so that we have a performance improvement. And based on that, I have explained this, since the older databases which were carved from the older schema wouldn't allow saving new data which is being saved while referring to the new schema. So this was the error, and this will get solved as soon as you get you reset, you purge your database. As soon as you do this, it will get solved, because your database all your tables would get truncated, and it would then regenerate the tables with new schema. So though this shouldn't be the case, we should handle this we should handle this in much better way, in which we should show that there's a new ask for a banner in Meshery UI, so that whenever there is an update to Meshery database, then the banner should come over here and it should yell at users so that they should upgrade their schema. They should upgrade their Meshery database. So that's the thing on which I would be working on next. So if in case you see this error, then you probably need to reset your database, and then it will get solved. Though this is just observed by recent or existing user, new user won't see this because the new database always started from fresh. So yeah. So any feedback or any questions?
Yeah, there's two things. One is that in part, Pranav, I don't know if you said this or not, but that when such changes occur, that we'll want to have a special call out probably in the release notes, or some kind of a trailing history in the upgrade guide. The Meshery docs, which is where the upgrade guide lives, those docs are versioned based on minor release. So I think we snapshotted at a v0.4, and we snapshotted the docs again at a v0.5, and then we're currently iterating on v0.6. And so what I mean to say is, if there became a long history of like upgrading from .4 to .4.5 to if it got really long, it would only be so long as intra minor release. So anyway, we just gotta try to communicate to users that or let them know what that path is.
Okay. So I make sure that there's a documentation update as well as a Meshery UI update to handle this change more easily.
One thing to also consider, and maybe this is a call out for, I'm not sure if Abdullah is focused on UI or other places, but did you discuss the possibility of a banner yet? Do you want to describe that to people and see if there's?
Yeah, so currently there's an ask to add a banner so that whenever a certain release is there, which could lead to a breaking change, so this banner will show that there is a requirement of your upgradation of your database, and with that we can handle this change in much better way. So we need to look into the MI material UI one. So I'll be looking into that more. So
yeah, thank you, Pranav. So next up we have Cyrine. So Cyrine would like to present on curating the troubleshooting toolkit. So we have Cyrine on the call. Yep, we do.
Yeah, so so Cyrine, if you're there, it's you're up. I figured I'd say Cyrine's name again, just in case that rings a bell. And so actually, if Cyrine isn't able to present at the moment, we'll wait a few more seconds and then just circle back.
My PC just froze. It's my turn to present, right?
That's right. Of course, if your PC froze, then of course it's time for you to present.
Okay, let me just maybe pass to the person after me so I can close some stuff and so it doesn't freeze in the midst of presenting.
Sounds good. Maybe we'll come back.
Sure. So next up we have is Lee. So Lee, would you like to give a brief on messaging framework and notification center?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I'll try to be a bit brief about this. This has been an ongoing piece of functionality or many pieces of functionality. So for those and this is something that it's time to advance. So it's been in the plan on the roadmap for a long time, probably about 1.5 years, that we've had the roadmap planned out from like .4, .5, .6, .7, .8, .9, 1.0. And so now is the time that we get to come and focus on this particular set of functionality. So Gaurav, if you don't mind, if you're able to share this for a moment, that most of us are quite familiar with the fact that Meshery as an application is distributed in nature, and not every Meshery deployment looks the same, which is to say that you're able to deploy certain adapters or not other adapters, or turn off various components and turn on various components of Meshery. And the further the project goes along, likely we will only continue with that plug-in model. That means that the individual components of Meshery need to be able to communicate back and forth and let each other know how they're doing, let each other know what they're capable of and how they can interact. The way that a lot of that communication happens today is through gRPC. Not all of the communication happens that way, but a lot. And so we want to have a common message format to be able to, there's, I don't know, 350 something people who've contributed to just Meshery server, just the main repo, not all the other repos. So there's a lot of people that come and go. And as we go, we want to be consistent with how these different individual components exchange messages and notifications. And there's an initial implementation of this that's been done and has been done for quite some time. There's a messaging format that occurs when an operation is invoked. So when a user says that they'd like to deploy a service mesh, that they'd like to deploy a Helm chart, they'd like to, they request Meshery to do an operation like that. Well, there's a set of information that's exchanged generally between like Meshery server and one of the adapters, and it goes off and does work and comes back, and there's some communication that happens. Well, some of that communication, there might be an error in the fulfillment of that provisioning request. Well, the messaging format that we focused on to date has been focused on that, on error messages. And there's a whole really interesting error utility that's been built into Meshkit, which is a common library used in each of Meshery's components. Really pretty neat. There's some Golang language instrumentation that's done in use of that. And that's a whole separate topic about, but anyway, the point is Meshery has these custom error messages that will be sent when an error does occur. And it uses this messaging framework to exchange information about the status of an operation. Getting the status of an operation exposed to the user is something that we should have really put into focus a long time ago. It is not confidence inspiring for a user to sit in front of Meshery's UI, to click on an operation request. And, on one hand, it feels good to have the little leprechauns and the magic sprinkles go off and like automate some infrastructure and do some things. But unless you're really comfortable with what Meshery is doing under the hood, you, as a user, you would really like to know what's going on. Specifically, what is it doing? Moreover, where is it at in that operation? That's what this spec is about. It's a big spec, and it probably needs to be broken down. It's a spec about common message formats. So for exchanging error codes, or I'm sorry, for exchanging errors, for exchanging operation status. I think there were going to be some other message types that maybe some about policy being violated. If people are defining policy and how they want their infrastructure to run, and Meshery detects a violation, that it would send a notification about that. Those are kind of 3 examples of message formats. And by that, I just mean the way in which you mark up the message, the way in which you would expect, what information you would expect to receive and have interchange between components. Great. But what about the mechanism by which you exchange the message over the wire? So that would be something like HTTP2 or gRPC, protobuf, Golang. Those are tools that can be that we're using today to exchange messages. We're also using NATS as a modern distributed enterprise message bus. We're using NATS in certain areas to exchange messages. And so it is time to light up Meshery's user interface with an enhanced, well, you'll hear me probably interchangeably say notification center or operations center. Gaurav, do you mind clicking on the link there? It's this it's right above architecture diagram where your cursor is. It says see Cisco Intersight for, see where it says full-sized image. So your cursor right now on the dock is on notification center inside the dock itself, not in the outline. Yeah, if you go, yep, there we are. This is just a screenshot of different management software. Some of you who've been around this place long enough are like, have heard me talk about this topic before. And you're probably checked out at the moment because you're like tired of hearing about it. But it's something that I think that we're finally ready to do. We have a lot of the tools, the functionality in place to, yeah, Gaurav is zooming in on the right section. It's this right-hand side. In this case, this particular piece of software, it's a management tool that focuses on Cisco's hardware. And it has a notification center. I don't even know what they call these things, but it has about 3 centers, if you will. This one's for alarms, critical alarms, warning, severity alarms, all alarms, info about what it is. Likely you can click to deep link into the particular piece of infrastructure that you're managing and see the alarm on in the dashboard. It's not pictured here, but there's probably also, there's operational status. Like if you requested that, anyway, I won't give you specific examples because I think it'll just confuse if I start talking about the specific infrastructure that's being managed. But the point is, if you've, as an administrator, if you've requested that a change to your infrastructure, that's an operation and it may take some time to perform, and there may be multiple steps in the workflow that gets executed. And so every user, certainly initially, would really, really, really like to see what's going on, what changes are being made, where is it at in the process, what happens if it fails in the middle. Should you roll back those changes? Should you leave them as is? Should you retry? Should you just cancel? That's not something that we're necessarily trying to address. This is why that other doc, the messaging framework and notification center design spec, it needs to be probably broken down into a couple of specs, because there's a difference between showing that information to the user and then subsequently following it up with the actions that I just mentioned: retry, cancel, rollback. That'll require a workflow engine. And so, yeah, I wanted to bring this up. Let's revive this. Let's break it down into manageable chunks. Ashish and Rutraj, or Uzair rather, have recently enhanced the Meshery adapters to send back a lot more telemetry about operations and their status. And so for those of you who've been using Meshery, you might have noticed a bit more feedback is occurring real time. And that's great. That needs to be continued. We need to continue to enhance that. So if this is an area of interest to you, please signal, because we'll collaborate. We'll be breaking this down further into bite-sized chunks. So there's work here on the back end and the front end on design. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, if you're interested, message in somewhere in Slack or on the roadmap that's published on on discuss.layer5.io.
So yeah, thank you, Lee. So as Lee said, if anyone is interested, do signal in Slack or discuss. So circling back to Cyrine. So Cyrine would like to share.
I'm sharing on her behalf,
Okay, sure.
or you can. Okay. So this is the troubleshooting toolkit. So Cyrine will
Oh,
talk about it.
this is not the one I think that I did the edits to. 1 second, I'll add the link of that instead. One second, I'll add the link of the one that I did.
Okay, in that case, we'll circle back to you once again. So, Ashish.
So yeah, next topic is by Ashish. So yeah, Ashish is presenting.
Okay. So one thing that was on the roadmap was the migration from SQLite database to Postgres. Right now we use SQLite because it's lightweight and it's kind of an embedded database, and we don't have that we didn't have that many requirements from the database. So we didn't move to Postgres, but as Lee just said, we would be incorporating a workflow engine and all those things. And a choice that can be made, a potential choice is temporal, and temporal requires Postgres as a default database. So now we are on a stage where we require more from our database, where things like retries and all the states would be, all the states of your operations would be stored and all. So there is a recent PR that was made because we use GOM as a ORM library. The changes were very minimal, and this is still on a testing phase right now. Most of the things have been tested, and Pranav and Cyrine have helped testing this PR. There was one bug that is right now present in this particular PR, which would be solved by this particular PR that I created in the mesh thing. Basically, this change is pretty simple. There is some GOM tags that were added, for example, owner references at things like owner references, and we were these GOM tags were SQLite specific, and since anything that is SQLite specific needs to go away. And the other changes, most of the changes are very minimal, and like few of the changes you would see are at the level of wherever we were using raw queries. So any raw query that was SQLite specific will be removed, because again we're so there are some things are functions that Postgres doesn't support. Other than that, the GOM pretty much hides all the sophisticated stuff. So if we use all the GOM's helper functions, we can just on the fly replace the core engine that was previously SQLite, and now it would be Postgres. And few things I have left out here that are currently in my local branch I haven't committed, and I will commit them after merging this PR, which would be fixing. So just I have a small question, because I mean I didn't get around validating this thing, so I'll ask Pranav because he was testing this. So Pranav, is the mesh thing change that's been made here? You were testing it, so is this backwards compatible with the current SQLite database, or this GOM tag is like required for SQLite right now?
Actually, I didn't test the backward compatibility, but like I was testing this thing with your PR, and after these changes, your PR works fine. Otherwise, there are some changes which were required. So backward compatibility, I need to check.
Okay, I'll check that. I'll check that. And yeah, the only thing that I need to confirm is that because like this change, we would be making some change in the mesh sync repository and making a mesh sync release. And since this PR might take some time to land, so things should break on the currently existing upstream or release, because where we are still using SQLite. So I'll ensure that we are backwards compatible, and after making changes in the Docker file and the workflows, like adding Postgres as a sidecar container on the same Meshery pod, and some other configuration stuff is left. So I'll do that by today, and I'll encourage other folks to check out this PR and test it out in their system. After this PR is merged, right now also most things would work. There is just one error that you'll get, and that error will be solved by this PR. So yeah, hopefully we can get this done by the end of this week, so we can completely migrate to Postgres. I mean, so we started out from Bitcask, and last year around this time we migrated to SQLite, and because that was a soft migration, not many changes required. But since we are on SQL-based stuff, and now we have much more requirements from our database, so hopefully this will solve a bunch of our problems. So yeah, that was it from my side.
Yeah, so thank you, Ashish. So if does anyone have any feedback or comments for Ashish?
Yeah, I've got one, just briefly. I'll share this. I'll share this just to try to help drive understanding and consensus. This diagram here just reinforces what Ashish was just saying, which is in the past there'd been a couple of different databases used, and currently still used is SQLite. There are a couple of Go maps running around yet. This particular slide not only is a roadmap slide pointing to a future release, but it also is hopefully helpful to everyone to understand what data is being stored where. I'm just seeing, I think this line needs to be updated, probably just to say SQLite or something, but not Bitcask. But yep, so that's it. So I dropped the link to this in the Zoom chat. Comments or questions for Ashish? So one right now, I guess.
have a lot of questions, but I don't want to interrupt, so I might have to ask that personally later. Ashish, I will just DM you with questions. I don't think, I'm new to the whole thing, so yeah, I'm still kind of wrapping my head around what's going on. But I have got some questions, so I'll direct that to your DM later, Ashish.
Nice, but it's an area of potential interest for Franklin, so that's good.
Yeah. For sure.
I have a couple of questions, but maybe a request before the questions ensue, which is, could we get a diagram of what a deployment might look like, and if there are different supported deployments with Postgres? That'd be nice.
Okay.
So by the way, we definitely use Postgres right now for storing the pattern files and all those things, right? Or are we using SQL yet?
In remote provider, so in Meshery Cloud, yeah, we use Postgres.
Okay, so we are talking around non-provider, right? Maybe.
Not only this, non provider is embedded in Meshery server, but everything that was in your .sql file, basically everything that was directly under the management, the database that was directly under the management of Meshery. So yeah, that so remote local provider was a subset of that.
All right.
Okay, so if you have any more comments or feedback for Ashish, you can say hi to Ashish in Slack. So again, circling back to Cyrine. So Cyrine has added the link. So let me share. So Cyrine would like to go through this.
Yes, hello again. This document is meant to be a kind of a guide that has all the needed information that a new user from Meshery or a new developer that's joining Meshery could use to kind of understand the big parts that make up Meshery and how to deploy certain components and how to troubleshoot the most known errors. So kind of started off by talking about the possible Meshery deployment scenarios and for user, and then the operator, mesh sync, and broker to go then into troubleshooting. One thing that I think could be added to this document are the errors that already exist for the ones that have codes that were created using a Meshkit for the broker and mesh sync. I think I left a comment for that. I saw that there already existed quite a few that are not really used, especially for the UI, for example, when there is an issue with a broker, kind of get a message as a toast, but not really something in the notification bar. So maybe this could be an issue that could be opened on GitHub for maybe using those errors in the notification bar. And also there's the status section for mesh sync and the broker. It's the one with the tables. Status of mesh sync and Meshery broker.
Yeah, toward the bottom, I think.
Yes. So here I tried to kind of dig into the code and see what statuses existed, and found that there are quite a few in the UI and then the backend that are different. For example, for mesh sync in the UI and mesh sync in the backend, in the UI it has way more statuses, and connected, for example, in the backend, only the broker has that status. So I'm kind of, if someone could maybe look into this with me, and maybe we can even try to make like an example of how we could minimize these statuses and keep them the same on the backend and UI end. I think that would make it much easier to understand the code and also to then maintain it and make it cleaner. There's also a few statuses that I couldn't really figure out what they were used for, like for the controllers enabled, running, connected, and unknown. I found that they were defined, but I couldn't really figure out what the condition was for them to be applied to the controllers. So if anyone knows the answer to these, it would really be helpful if they could maybe leave a comment on the document, or maybe just send me a message, or I'd send them a message, and we'll figure it out.
Okay, so about the statuses, the way after the refactor that was happened by Nithish, the states that are it's a single enum, which is Meshery controller status. So each of these things, operator, mesh sync, and broker, all these three things are considered as Meshery controllers, and each controller has the same set of states. So whatever state one has, and you can find these states inside of Meshkit, inside of models. I'll drop a link, and there is the enum, and UI should refer to that enum. And because, and I mean, those enums, there's a dot string method on them. So of course, when you get the response back, you can find out the actual value of it. So I think UI devs should refer to that particular enum that is used in the backend. I'll just drop a link to that.
Okay, thank you.
So any more?
Yeah, Cyrine, a question. So did we arrive at a set of consolidated states? We've got not active and disabled, enabled, deployed, running. And so there's the enums there. And I think what Ashish is saying is conceptually that enum is the source of truth for like all of the statuses that you should see. I certainly see the word active in the UI today. So, you know, Abhi's had a helping hand in some of this. So we need to consolidate. We need to either have active here or
yeah,
not.
I think some state from here is being translated as active, because backend never sends the active state. So Abhi, what is like is deployed active, or which one of these states is translated as active?
So I think enabled or running, like anything other than disabled or not connected is perceived as active state.
Cool. And I'm waiting for you to follow up that sentence with, and that just won't fly. Like we shouldn't have a translation layer. There should be a direct.
Mm-hmm.
We should either have active here or it needs to be. So good. I'm hopefully the doc will help drive some consensus. Just a common
the controller status right now, like most of the time, just give disabled or enabled or unknown. So
yeah, I think basically you can you shouldn't have any hard coding on the UI. Just take whatever value is here and then translate that on the UI. Like send that by translate. I mean, just send that. There's a 1-to-1. There should be a 1-to-1.
Yep. Yeah, that's not being done at least now. So probably, yeah. Actually, this needs a bit of change.
On my side, I will try to kind of still dig into the code and figure out what the other states are translated to, or how they are kind of related, the ones on the back end to the one that exists on the front end, to make that consolidation easier, maybe.
I think it would really help. It's already helping. You're already driving clarity. So part of your objective here, Cyrine, is that this will be, these states and what they mean will be published in Meshery docs.
Yes, once I have kind of, because there seems like there are some states that aren't even used. So once we have that clarified, I think, well, maybe the states that are on the UI from a user's point of view would be more useful to know, because the way that it is right now, publishing both the one on the backend and the UI would be very confusing. I also tried to kind of add the parts for build Meshery operator and build Meshery sync and other stuff that could be used for for a developer. And one question that I had when writing this guide was that, from a user's point of view, in the guide for users section, the first one, for a possible Meshery deployment scenario, there doesn't really seem to be any other way to deploy Meshery without the operator and controllers other than using the Helm charts, is there? I thought maybe the Meshery controller would kind of make it that possible. So either the Helm charts or the UI.
Or Meshery CTL. All three of which should, under the covers, just use Helm charts. Not that anyone here has had a great experience with Helm, but that the economies of scale of just using one method and only one method. Is that what you were asking? Like, so they can go direct to Helm. You can use Meshery CTL as a client that will directly talk to Kubernetes and under the covers use common functions inside of Meshkit. So hopefully these right here. And then so too will Meshery server use the same common functions from Meshkit, these right here, to ultimately use the Helm charts to deploy itself or its components.
No, what I meant was that since there seems to be use case for Meshery using Meshery without the operator on its own and then using Meshery with the operator, I was wondering if, because from looking at the documentation, trying things out myself, I found that only using Helm, as in doing Helm install, or by going to the UI and deactivating the operator, can one get a Meshery without the operator. So I was wondering if that would also existed using Meshery CTL, maybe using a tag or something that could mean that you are trying to have Meshery without the operator. Maybe that was something that I haven't seen or that wasn't very clear in the documentation, and I could then added in here.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying. Yeah, now I get it. I misunderstood. I don't think that that's a feature, or I don't think that there's a flag. And yeah, there are use cases to, like you said, to only run Meshery server. Maybe you just want to do performance testing and you don't need the Meshery operator. And so it sounds like a good feature request, a fairly simple flag actually on Meshery CTL. And the thing is like, well, to the extent that one client, Meshery CTL, might have a flag for that type of custom deployment, that so too then could Meshery UI as a different client potentially also have a check mark or a flag that says that controls the same behavior.
Okay, just wanted to make sure because I thought that maybe I didn't really find this and it already existed.
Oh, yeah, I mean, but so Root Raj makes a great point, and actually Root Raj, I think you should say it.
Yeah. So on Meshery UI, we still have a little toggle to turn off operator, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I
we
added
do.
that on deploy Meshery operator of a working Meshery instance. Because in my mind, they're kind of three different scenarios. That's why I separated them. Number 5, and in the user guide, I think it's number 5. On the third one, on deploy Meshery without the operator controllers. Yep, that one. So if there's anything missing that any of you feel is missing in this document, or that maybe isn't clear or even is not correct, please do not hesitate to leave a comment and tell me about it.
This is great. Yep, sounds like there's a potential feature request in there. Because to Root Raj's point, oh yes, after you've deployed Meshery operator, you can remove it. But to Cyrine's point, it's like, well, what if you didn't want to deploy it up front? Is there a flag for that? So yeah.
Okay, so like we can have that flag in Meshery CTL, and other than that, other way of doing that would be manually, which would be Helm repo, and if someone is doing that, of course, because the operator and Meshery Helm charts have recently been split out, so they can just do Helm install just Meshery, and that will only install Meshery. But if they have installed just the Meshery, and if they come to the dashboard for the first time, in all of their clusters, operator would be deployed by default. So we can have a flag in Meshery's binary that can allow this behavior to be overridden at runtime.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, then then maybe I'll open an issue for it, or maybe as a feature. I'm not really sure if it's something that is will have a priority for the moment right now. So it's only just something that kind of thought about.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, it probably doesn't hurt to open it, maybe to put it onto a future, like on a v0.8 or something, or in the meantime, people can use the Helm chart if they have such a, like, it doesn't hurt to open the issue. Yeah, nice, great.
Yeah,
okay. Good. Thanks for putting together that doc. So everybody, Cyrine's looking for feedback. What she's attempting to do is we'll close the gap between the loads of functionality and different possibilities that you can do with the software and the delta between what's described in Meshery docs. So she's trying to make there not be a difference. So for anyone who's new to the project, it's actually a good place for you to go, or to go give feedback on that doc, because many of you who are deploying Meshery, you're going through some of the same things. Cool, Gaurav, what's next?
Yep. Next up, we have Antonette on Go 1.19 upgrade. So, and Antonette would like to take over from here.
Sure. Morning, everyone. So as of right now, the Go upgrade to 1.19, they are almost complete. I just completed the last one for AppMesh, and so there are two more, but the Octarine is supposed to be deprecated, and the VMware Tanzu, which I have not started on, which should be completed sometime today or tomorrow. But I did update the issue. Let me share. I can just share real quick. Okay, so most everything on the list has already been updated to 1.19. And as I mentioned, there are two, but one is deprecated, so it shouldn't be any activity. I will be sending a PR to make a note that this project is not to be used. And can anyone explain to me about VMware Tanzu? Is it still, is it supposed to be Edge, Sable, Alpha, Beta, Omega?
Yeah. Husseina, do you want to chime in?
I need to check and come back on that.
Yeah. Nears.
Like there is some community edition and all those things. I have to check. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, Octarine is anyways. Yeah.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Okay.
But yeah, when that adapter is in alpha, and when it was initiated as a repo and kind of the initial scaffolding put into the adapter, Tanzu had yet to be made GA, and it since has been, but there's licensing associated. And so I think Husseina is pointing out that, there might be a community edition that we can work with to develop the adapter. So it's alpha.
Okay, so that does make sense. I was looking up the Octarine, and I did read that VMware had took over Octarine, embedded into Tanzu, and then I thought I remember reading somewhere that Tanzu also has a community edition. So yeah, however we do it, I mean, I can do the initial part and make sure that nothing breaks, and then we can just go from there. So, but the only other thing is to make little small changes in the adapter library and the mesh kit, and I believe the mesh sync have been updated recently. So some of them just have to be a couple of small chores to get the rest of them up to date. But other than that, I think that's it for just this part. Does anybody have any questions or concerns, or would like to try to ask some feedback?
One thing that tangential to this is the notion that each of the make files for the different components, I think it throws a warning if the contributor doesn't have the binary go one,
Right.
and we might be able to relax that a little bit so that it's not necessarily go 1.19.1. Maybe it could just stop at 119, or Antonette, you might know better. Maybe using Go 118 is fine as well. Or I don't know if we can relax some, to whatever extent we can relax some of those conditions, it would grease the wheels to contribution. So
Okay. So I will say from what I've been doing, as long as you're not using, as long as the project is not set at 1.17 and you have 118 and 119, then it will complain and will ask you if you want to do it compatible or not. But if you have the project, the module at 1.18 or 19 or above, you should be fine. So we can relax it, but we can also just make a note, hey, this is what we're working on. And that also brings up another point that I did see, that there was 1 or 2 projects that are not exactly up to date on the make files. And I was also thinking about when I was working on the Meshery operator, there's a section in the make file that it will download a particular binary for you. So I was thinking about adding that in some of the make files for the Golang CI lint. So that would just help to make it uniform, make sure that we're working on the same version, but you're not forced to have to download it on your own PC. That was another thing that I was thinking about doing. I just haven't done it yet. So.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I dropped another suggestion into the Zoom chat about how to potentially keep the requirements, but relax the, grease the wheels of contribution. Sometimes if people just have a single version of Go installed, maybe it's Go 119, that I think the test in the make file today looks, yeah, anyway, you can read the comment, but yeah, that's great.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I also considered that for the CI, maybe we can set up a matrix to test for 118 and 119. If I believe, which one of the project already has that, I think it was the Meshery operator, or I remember reading one of the CI file and it has a matrix system.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we can copy from that and then we can add it to the rest. Just for now until 118 is no longer supported.
Yeah. What else? Yep, there is a matrix for Kubernetes versions, and so yeah.
Oh yeah, so we also need to make sure that we're testing for the latest version for Kubernetes, and they already went up to what is it, 1.25 now, and then we'll need to remove the old one since there shouldn't be anybody using it. So
Ashish, maybe that's a topic for tomorrow's meeting on build and release. Something I think we're probably overdue on executing. Or now that we're on Go 119, that it becomes much more feasible.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Nice. Antonette, did you have another topic?
do I? I'm not sure. I don't have my other browsers. I'm only showing one.
Sure.
Oh, sure.
Do I have another one? Let me see.
Yeah, one was updates from the adapter spreadsheet, and another was chasing down the vulnerabilities and security grades.
Oh, yes. So the update from the adapter, let me see. I haven't made the update yet. Actually, I do need to go back and check through them. There was 1 or 2 that I found it was lacking a little bit on the feedback when you tried to run the adapter. I believe I did submit one for Cyrine because it was what was it? I think I submitted one yesterday. Oh, yes. So I submitted one yesterday to upgrade the two adapters, the mesh kit and the library, but I also noted because the adapter library has to be updated, there were some certain features that were not there before, but there are now. So they have been updated. They run just like how it is from the issue. But the rest of them, the one that haven't really been updated, they may need to come close to it so that we can get a little bit more feedback on whether the adapter need to update the new component, if it need to, log any errors. But the other one is the vulnerabilities and the security grade. So I am going back to each of the libraries and each of the adapters to make sure that they are uniform in the base images, as well as if they are using the same version or if they're using an earlier version, whatnot. That should cut it down to the minimum. However, there are some like the Debian have some of their age-old CVE. The only other thing that I can think that we can work around is to try a different image, but as long as it's what do you call it? Popular and it won't break too much. But that can be something that can be later down the road, not now. I did notice that one of the adapter library had a different base images for Distillus, but everybody else is using Debian. So I don't know if that was meant to be, or was that a not necessarily a mistake, but more like somebody just made one and then you ended up using Debian later on.
Yeah, I don't think there's a good reason for it.
Okay. Well, then we just need to make it the same, or we can just do a vote and then pick on which image that would work. But other than that, I believe that's it. So, okay.
Yeah, that's great. You know, if distro list works, like this, the smallest thing out there is probably preferential.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, thank you, Antonette. So we have 1 minute left. So Rituraj would like to cover this thing quickly.
Yeah, just super quick. Yeah, so regarding this PR, so I was updating the docs. I'm not sure if I did it right because it kind of got rid of 5,000 lines of docs. I just ran, I installed Swagger and I ran this Swagger build on Make. So, and that, I mean, I did spin up a Swagger server and I looked at it. It looked fine, but it deleted 5,000 lines of docs. I don't know what those are. So somebody can please take a look at that.
Any volunteers there? Ashish or somebody else? Go have a look after the call.
Yeah, I'll have a look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so thank you, Rituraj. So we are over time. So let's discuss all the other items in the next Meshery Dev call. So thank you all for joining today. So to join other calls, you can subscribe to Layer 5's community calendar. We'll be meeting on Wednesday next week at same time.
Thank you all. Thanks, Gaurav. See you guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Yes.